So I'm here with Christian Kent, who's the head of venue at Argyle. We're a day or two out from the start of the season, or start of the home season, and you're busy preparing for that. It's been a long 18 months since we last had a home game here. How are preparations going?
Yeah, good. It's a good start, Dan. I think we're in a really good position for Saturday, so lots to look forward to. Community activities around the stadium. We've got some on-field activity before the game starts, so really looking forward to welcoming supporters back to Home Park.
I know it's been 18 months, but in some ways it feels like a lot longer when you think of all of the different types of legislation and regulations and so on that we've had to operate under. Lots of change here. But I suppose the important thing for supporters when they come back is to know what's different for them. What do they have to do? What can they expect? And how do they get from outside the stadium to their seats so that they can enjoy the game?
Lots of work behind the scenes in the last 18 months, and a lot will have changed since supporters last came back to Home Park. So I think first of all, we have a new stewarding provider, so a company called City Security have come on board after quite an extensive tendering process. So the reason for the change mainly is around customer service, and also quite a lot of training has gone into that over the past 4 to 6 weeks. For us to be able to get the operation right. I think what was important that was we got some really valuable feedback over pre-season, and some of that was around the searching policy. So we hope when supporters come back on Saturday, we're able to demonstrate that is as quick and efficient as possible. And I think the other thing is that obviously on the stewarding stuff, we've really coordinated with the local SAG group, Public Health England, and the Safety Advisory Group on the different kind of policies that we have to have in place on a match day, and we've submitted those to the league, and we're really excited to get football back.
Obviously you've touched upon it there, 3 pre-season games here. By and large they went pretty well and the feedback was positive, but we did, I recall, get some sort of emails regarding the stewarding process, the access progress in the Lyndhurst side, and I understand that we've made a few changes or a bit more training since then. Can you talk us through that and how it might have changed and moved on since pre-season?
Yeah, sure. So we did get some really useful feedback over pre-season. I think pre-season for us is really about testing our operation and making sure that we've got everything right for the first home game of the season, and it probably wasn't quite right on the Lyndhurst side, so we want to make sure that is the same at any entry point across the stadium, and the stewarding team have undertaken 2 lots of different training to make sure that the searching policy is mirrored across the stadium as a whole. It may not seem that way at all times, because obviously we do individual risk assessments as people come up to the turnstile, and the search can encompass different things such as a wand or a pat down, and it will be different for different supporters, but we hope that across the stadium supporters generally have the same experience.
It feels like as somebody who's got very little experience or knowledge of what it takes to hold an event in terms of safety, it feels like a step up, and obviously in some of the communications we've referenced the counter-terrorism unit, which strikes me as a layman as slightly excessive. Are you able to talk me through that process? I mean, it sounds crazy, the counter-terrorism unit in Plymouth, but there we go.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you talk about it as counter-terrorism, it can come across that way. I think what's important though is that due to recent events at different venues, so Manchester bombing, for example, and Wembley at the Euro final, clubs and large venues have to have a really robust policy in place, and part of that consultation is with the counter-terrorism team, but it's also with Public Health England and the local SAG and the local council about how best to make sure that the stadium is safe for fans. There's no specific threat to Home Park. As a whole, we're no more high risk than any other venue, but we have to make sure that we have robust procedures in place to make sure that supporters are safe inside.
Well, that's good. Obviously, good to hear. In terms of kind of the checks themselves, some of the feedback we've had, if we're being honest, is that it feels a little bit excessive. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that?
Well, we have a searching policy, which is that every supporter is eligible for a search, and that might be in the form of a wand or a pat down. I think over pre-season we probably didn't get it quite right, so I'm hoping that first game of the season our fans will be able to see that we've made massive progress in that area.
So that's one element of the changes, but obviously what we haven't touched upon yet at all is the reason fans weren't allowed to come 18 months ago is COVID-19. Yeah. The world has changed a lot since our last league fixture here. COVID-19 is still around. What can supporters expect from the experience coming in a world with COVID-19 present?
Yeah, so despite the fact that we don't have any government restrictions, we do have a EFL policy to work to. So supporters will notice a few things really. So first of all, we've got a new cleaning provider, so a company called Clean Event, who clean lots of different stadiums across the UK, so Brentford, Tottenham, Anfield, for example. So the venue presentation team will be in and around the stadium, making sure that cleaning procedures are in place across all areas. I think the other thing as well is that we have a red zone, so supporters who weren't here last season, unfortunately, we had to abide by it last year as well. So red zone essentially is 3 different areas, so it's the staff kind of car park, Mayflower car park, the changing rooms, and anything within inside the ground boards of the pitch. So those are kind of the red accredited areas, and anyone within that area goes through robust COVID screening and kind of socially distanced with mask wearing, etc. We obviously encourage all of our supporters to mask wear while they're traversing the stadium. We recognise that that's not always possible in some cases, and staff are really actively encouraged to wear masks at all times.
It's I don't really want to get into the politics of it all, but it's a contentious subject, isn't it? Face coverings and even kind of vaccines and whether you need to have one and so on. What's the club's position kind of as a whole, or are we sort of guided by events further up the chain really?
Yeah, I think we are guided by the guidelines that the government set, and also the guidelines that come from the league. But I think we really want supporters to be safe first and foremost. So it's not about only your own health; it's about the health of others. So we would definitely encourage the use of face coverings. And I think from an internal point of view, all of our staff wear face coverings, and we absolutely encourage supporters to get vaccinated, double vaccinated if that's what they want to do.
And of course, they can do that just behind us over here.
Can, yeah.
That's still going on at the moment when the fans come back, so that'll be interesting. But how much longer can we expect the NHS to be around? Because obviously the chairman and the CEO and people have spoken about at some point needing to kind of really amp up the Home Park Stadium side of the business, which you're also in charge of. What can you tell us about that?
So the NHS are contracted to be here until the 30th of September, and obviously so that kind of covers a small amount of games between now and the 1st of October. So it is quite challenging having the 2 sites running together, and we've worked really closely with the NHS to make the supporter experience the best that it can be on the Mayflower side. I think that there will be some areas that can be improved once the NHS go. So the fan zone is a really good example of that, where we want to be able to bring that back. At the moment, that's not quite possible with the marquee that's in place, but from the 1st of October, we'll be able to do that.
We've talked a lot about kind of quite difficult, heavy subjects, but how excited are you just to get back to having a game that counts for points with fans in the stadium and stuff? Yeah,
it's super excited. I think that, from my point of view, I think first of all, having hospitality guests back in is going to be brilliant. Having that buzz on a match day and everyone in Club Argyle. I think having supporters in and around the stadium, enjoying all the activities that are going on, watching the entertainment that we've put on, I think it's going to be a great moment at 1 minute to 3 when we're just about to kick off. I can't wait.
On that note, we should probably let you go and finish off the preparations, but thanks for chatting to us.
Thanks, Dan.